Release the Kraken!
Greetings, fellow game designers. Ron here at Lame Duck Studios, and today we're going to look at applying materials in Unity. Now, this is just a material overview. I'm not going to go too depth into it, but I want to get you guys sort of acquainted with the material system in Unity, because it is different than what you would experience in Maya or Max or Blender or Unreal. So, with that being said, let's dive right in. Today's video is sponsored by Look No Further. Look No Further is a horror story by Theo Realms. It is a short book. It's about 30,000 words long. You can get through it in about probably a couple hours. It wouldn't really take you all that long. Certainly you can get through it in a weekend. And I recommend you check it out. It is on Kindle right now. If you're on Kindle Unlimited, it is free. For anybody else, it is $2.99. Now, this is Theo's first book. He just published this on July 7th. So give it lots of encouragement. Go Theo. And yeah, if you like horror and you want a quick read, this is definitely for you. Let's give a quick synopsis. The house at the end of Black Cherry Lane is not what it seems. And when a 10-year-old boy named Matt Blackshear ventures inside, the terrifying experience he has there will change his life forever. Years later, when he returns to the old neighborhood to confront his fears, he finds that not only is the thing that tormented him still there, it's been waiting for him. Ooh, spooky. Alright. Definitely check it out. It's worth the read. And on with the tutorial. So here's our default project, and I'm just in the basic scene here. And all I want to do is add in a plane. I'm going to go ahead and right click here. And let's go down to 3D objects. I'm going to add in a plane. And it's going to drop down in the center here, 0, 0, 0. Awesome. Zoom in on this. And now I'm going to add in a material. So now materials in Unity are actually pretty simple. They're about as bare-boned and basic as you can get. You can actually see down here with this plane selected, I have a default material component already added to it. And you can see that it is comprised of a shader. And all a shader is the piece of code in the background that communicates how light and color and other aspects of rendering interact with this object here. When you take a picture or a color and you combine that with your shader and you apply it to an object, you end up with a material. So just so you know that a shader and a material are related to each other. They're not exactly the same, but yeah, in general. And you can go, of course, you can go ahead and hit edit, and you can change some features in the material right down here. You can see all the properties. Now I can't really mess with these because this is the default material, but we can go ahead and create our own. So if I right click here, then I come up to create, I can come down, I can actually create a shader, and I can build a Unity shader, ray tracing, all this stuff, and just build the shader that I want in the beginning. Or I can come down to material, and this will create a shader for me with the material properties ready to go. So here's a basic one. I'm going to go ahead and call this one my material. And if I want to apply that to my object, I can just drag it on. And it looks exactly the same, right? You can see that the material has changed. So if I grab him, come down in the inspector here, and now it says my material. You can see the shader, and if I hit the drop down, now I can edit all of the properties. And I can change whatever I like. You know, I can change the color here. Click on the color, pick one. Right now I'm on red, but you see I'm on red for the color wheel, but I'm on white for the value. So I'm going to go and change the value all the way to red, and now I have a red material, and close that. Important to know that whenever you change a material in this way, you are actually changing the material itself, not just what's applied to the object. So if you have more than one object, I'm going to go ahead and grab a cube here, move him over here, and I apply the same material to him. If I change the material from here, let's say I go in and I make this blue now, they both change because they are using the same material. So it doesn't matter if I'm messing with the material directly or if I'm messing with the material that is applied to the object. They all target the same thing. That being said, we're going to go over some of the properties and other aspects of the materials. Now up here we have the albedo. Now the albedo actually is the basic color without any shadow added to it. So you can have you know, an image of somebody's face for a character, and you know, the color of the face, you know, the eye and the eyebrows and the scruffiness of the beard, all that can be in there as the raw color, but none of the shading will be there. So an albedo is just the color without any shadow. For those of you who are used to Maya or Unreal or even Blender, the albedo is also can be correlated with your diffuse map. Now the difference between an albedo and a diffuse is that a diffuse has color and pattern information in it, so it is more on the side of a texture. You can have shadows and other things baked into it. But in general, these are applied the same. Okay? Just that the albedo has no shadows and the diffuse can have shadows in it. Now the metallic handles how metallic an object looks. So if I want this to be a metal looking material, then I can bump up the metallic. I can drag this up and give some sheen to this. And if I move my camera around, you can see how it has that gloss and it shimmers as you would expect metal to do. You can also load an image in here that will map what parts of the object should be metallic and what parts should not be metallic. And you can handle that through a texture right here. You'll note right beside each of these names here, you have a little toggle, and these will open up the option to grab a texture from a file. Coming on down, we have the smoothness. Now, the smoother or rougher an object is determines its visible texture quality, right? So a metal material that has, you know, a 0.5 is going to be kind of like more like a brushed metal. But if I drag this all the way up to super smooth, super polished, then you'll see we have, you know, this really high gloss. And if I take this down really rough, this could be an old piece of metal. You know, it's still metallic, but it has when the light hits it, it's going to scatter. It's going to diffuse a little bit more into the material. Coming down here, we have our normal map. Normal map is used for adding fine details, cracks and divots and that sort of thing. We're going to see this more later on. Height map kind of does what a normal map does, except it pushes it a little bit further. We'll get to see that a little bit more in just a minute. But the big difference is the normal map uses the RGB color space, and it applies it to the if you look at the little compass down here, the red arrow, that's your X, the blue arrow is your Z, and that green one is your Y. You see how they're color coded, red, blue, and green. So it takes the RGB color space and it applies it to the normal space on an object to give you the illusion of depth in a very sophisticated way, so that when you change the angle of your camera or whatever, now it looks pretty convincing until you get right down to the edge where it can't figure out the light, you know. The height map kind of does the same thing in terms of creating depth, but it uses parallax, which is taking two images, all the black and all the white of an image. So all the white is pulled up into the layer, and all of the black is pulled down into the layer, and it gives you the illusion of depth. So when you change the angles, you'll see kind of like that. And we're going to see that when we apply it in just a minute. So before I get too carried away, because I have a tendency to do that, let's go ahead and drag in some textures here. You're going to find these in the description, so you're welcome to download those. I'm going to grab these. So I've got them. And I grab my decal while I'm here. Map. Okay. Drag those in. Now I've dragged those in, we have our textures here. And I can take my material, I'm going to go up to the albedo here. I'm going to hit the little drop down. And you can do this, you can hit the drop down and assign it, or you can drag one of these into. So I'm going to drag the main color. Now you can see that this is a diffuse map, but it is going to work in kind of the same way as the albedo. But you can see that there are shadows already baked into here. So this is technically a diffuse. I'm going to go ahead and scroll up. Oh, I'm on the material. And actually, this is actually a good thing to show. So I can actually take my material, if I just drop it right on here, what Unity will do is it'll create a materials folder for me and create a new material out of the image I just dropped onto there, which is kind of handy. So you don't have to make a material first. Unity will build one for you if you apply a texture to your map, or to your object here. me go back to my assets. I'm going to reapply my blue material here, just to show that I can do it here as well. So I'm going to go up to the Albedo, hit the little drop down, and grab the texture out of there. Now check this out. Because I have a color set, I can pass that color or multiply that color through my material or my texture map here. I can always take this out, set this back down to default here, which is white. Close that off, and now it looks normal. And check that out. Because I have metallic bumped up on here, it has a metallic sheen. Since we're using brick, let's go ahead and take the metallic all the way back down. I'm going to take the smoothness down as well because bricks are quite rough. So now we have a more rough looking brick. And like I was saying before, you can see how there's some shadows baked into here, which makes this a diffuse. If there were no shadows in here and we just had the raw color, it would correctly be an albedo. Coming on down, I have this metallic here. Just to show you that you can, I'm going to take my bump map here, and I'm just going to throw in the texture of the bump map. And you can see, because now I'm using the texture for the metallic, I no longer have the little slider. I can't adjust how much metallic is in there or out of there, but it is now being driven by this black and white color pattern, and that's very common throughout through texture. So black is no value, white is pure value, and anything that is gray is some range in between there. And then mathematically, those correlate to 0 for 100% black and 1 for 100% white, and then that range in there. So that's how that kind of gets derived. And you can see as I move across this, some parts of this are more metallic than others because I have that color range on here. I have that gradient on here, which is kind of cool. If I want to remove that, I can hit that drop down again, scroll up to none, click that. And then I can adjust this if I wanted to manually. Coming down to the normal map, so what we were talking about earlier is how a normal map uses RGB color space and uses that to the world space to get depth. So I'm going to grab this and the drop down, I'm going to go down and grab my normal map. And you can see right as I do that, if I hit none, you see how it shifts and I hit it, you can see that kind of pops out those details. It's really cool. Now one thing, when we imported the texture, we did not convert it to a normal map. They will store differently based on what they're set up as. So just make sure, if you haven't done that, just hit fix now, and it'll make sure that is marked as a normal map. But check that out. We have these cracks and these fine details. Those pop out a little bit more. It's awesome. Now the illusion does break. If I get really, you can see right here, it looks like these are popping out, but if I get really close to the fact that this is flat, you'll see that all those details kind of go away. So it's an illusion in the camera, but it's pretty convincing from most of your angles. For the height map, I'm going to go ahead and add my height map. I'm going to come down, I'm going to look for the one called bump, which should be the second one in my list here. Grab that. And a bump map and a height map are the same thing. They're just called different things. So in Unreal, they're called bump maps. In Unity, they're called height maps. And pretty much everywhere else, the common terminology is now height map. Maya still uses bump, but they're still height maps. Now, as I apply this, you can see that the general color of this, anything that is black sinks in, anything that is white pulls out. And you can kind of see that here. So on this tile or this brick, you can see how it's sinking in, and then how the grout, because the grout is brighter in color, it's been being pulled. So you can also adjust this. So this will this will base everything off of the default of the map itself, but you can push this a little bit further. So this is a default of 0.02. If I drag this up, I can really push these values. If I pull this down, it'll sharpen those out. So you can really play with that to get the effect that you're going for. Okay. The next thing on our list is our occlusion, also sometimes referred to as the ambient occlusion. So what occlusion means is if something is blocking something else, it is occluded by the thing that is blocking it. So, for example, this water bottle, if I put my hand in front of the water bottle, my hand is occluding the bottle. Okay. But what this really means as far as color and texture is the shadows in a given object. So you can see that this brick pattern here, I have these areas where there should be some shadow, right? And when you're dealing with like an albedo, where there's no shadow, it's good to have an ambient occlusion because that'll help push in those shadows to help the image. So a lot of our images are flat, right? So in reality, this picture is a flat image. So when light hits it, it's going to be calculated across a flat surface. And that's not going to give us anything really accurate. Our normal map will help kind of guide some of that and figure out what those shadows are, but it's not going to be very great at it. And if we have any areas where there are actual physical details in the geometry, the light that is being calculated will catch that shadow, but it won't be as super detailed as it could be because light bounces are expensive. So to kind of help with all that, we use the ambient occlusion to further influence those shadows. So I'm going to grab my material here. I'm going to come down to my occlusion. Let's grab the AO over here. And you can see the moment I apply that, those shadows get nice and crisp. If I take that away, put it in, take it away, put it in. So that's the ambient occlusion. Now shadows should not be perfectly black in the real world, but when you have a really bright light source, let's say this light source is hitting this from over here, then the brighter the light source here, anywhere there would be a possible shadow, like we're here, this would be occluded from the light, that would be really dark. So this is pretty good there. But if the light were shining directly onto it, like perpendicularly, then these shadows would end up being almost grayed out. So if I take this off, if the light were coming straight on, it would look more like this. And close that. Now you can drive the value of the occlusion. You can push that up. You can drag it down. Now the next thing on our list is our detailed mask. So you have the option to have additional details on your object. So what you can do is put a mask in there. So what a mask is a black and white image where anything, again, that is black is going to be considered masked. Anything that is white is going to show up on the image. So I have this decal right here, and it has an alpha channel. If I jump in to Photoshop, you can see that the, let me go down to the alpha here. So all of the black is going to be subtracted from the image, and all of the white, in this case this little plus symbol, is going to be added to the image. So if I come back down to here, and I go to my material, let's go to detailed mask. I'm going to grab my decal here. So this is going to be the mask, and then you don't see it here, but what this does, this creates a mask to be applied for our secondary maps under the details albedo. So whatever I put here is going to be multiplied through the mask of the detail mask. So if I hit this, let's go ahead and I'll pick the decal by itself, and you can see that here. So all the white that is in the symbol gets added to the mask. In this case, it gets multiplied to the mask. And you see this, it's multiplied by a value of 2. And then you can also add a normal map to that. I don't have a normal map for this, but if you wanted one, you could make one. Right here in Photoshop, I can do that. Let me just jump in. And if you happen to have downloaded the image in Photoshop, you can just follow along here. Just throw the image in, throw on a background. I'm going to do a background solid color. Let's do black. And then I'm going to take this. I'm going to throw it into a group. I'm going to duplicate the group by holding down Alt and then dragging. I'll turn the top group off, and then on the second group, I'm just going to go ahead and merge that down so that it's a single picture. And the reason I did that is it's easier to do this next part, which is under Filter, 3D, generate a normal map. And here we go. I'm going to put that on a... Do we have an option for plane here? Yeah, I'll just do it on a cube. So that is what our symbol will look like. Oops. So on this, it looks like it's going to sink in. On the picture here, you can see it's actually pushing out. So sometimes the Y value, your up value, is going to be reversed. In Photoshop, you can actually invert the height here. I can uncheck that, and I can get I can change the direction of it, so now it's sinking in. But pick whichever one you like. We can always flip that inside of Unity. Hit OK. I'll go ahead and just save this out. Call this decal normal. Save it. Because I do have an alpha map on here, I'm going to go ahead and hit 32-bit and hit OK. Let's go ahead and drag that in. And now if I go to my material, and I come down to the decal, to my secondary maps, grab the normal, and I'll grab the decal normal. And you can see that being applied through there. Hey. Some more fun you can have with this, of course, since we have a brick pattern, you can do tiling. You can tile this more or less. So we have a tiling option over here. Let's do a 3 by 3. And you can see the brick pattern has been tiled. And it's pretty seamless. Now you want to make sure that you have a tiling image for that to be seamless. And when I made this, I did make sure that it was seamless. So there you go. You have a free brick pattern. Enjoy. Okay, so that's a pretty good overview of materials and textures inside of Unity. Hopefully you found this to be helpful. Just kind of getting into applying and adjusting materials and such. If you like this sort of stuff, make sure you mention it down in the comments. And I shall see you next time. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you enjoyed that video you just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, I'm getting into NFTs. Those are big these days. I was thinking about creating my own coin, but we'll get into that at a later date. But NFTs are pretty hot right now. I'm converting my artwork to NFTs. You can see my Rarible page right here. Well, I got 4 items, but I'm adding one as they go. They're not cheap to make, so gotta make them as I go. If you want to support the channel other ways, of course, there's Lame Duck Studios merch, which you can see right here on my Teespring store, as well as Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, I have my books up there under Bruce RF, which is my pen name. Life and Times of Dinah Marton, as well as The Guardian's Path of Ascension. You can flip through those and see the reviews, and grab a copy, read it, tell me what you think. It helps me out as an author. It also helps me out as, everything goes back into the stuff that I'm doing. So more content for you. If you want to keep up with me throughout the day, or just kind of see what's going on in life, hit me up on Twitter under BruceRF1. Again, that is my pen name. If you want to see what's going on my blog, ronflowersjr.me, you can see what I'm writing about, what else is going on in life, difficulties that I have with my projects that I'm working on. A lot of my devlog stuff kind of goes there before it comes here, so it's another way of kind of getting into that. I do also have a Patreon where I release content early if you want to get access to things ahead of time, because most of the stuff I produce, I do things on Sundays and I post on Wednesdays most often, but it goes to Patreon first, so it's kind of there usually a week or so ahead of time, and then it has a release schedule. So if you want to see things early, go there. Let's see, what else is going on? You can also follow me on Facebook under you can do the Lame Duck Studios Facebook or the Bruce RF Facebook. Both of those are available. And a lot of these links are down in the description, so if you want to just hit those up and just click on them and follow them through, that's another way of getting there. Also, we are at 1,300 subscribers. Woo! We're this close to 10,000. But small milestones first. Let's get to 2,000 subscribers, and then we will continue our road building toward that 10,000 milestone. That is going to be pretty awesome for this channel, my humble channel. So yeah, that's all I have for you on this outro. It's a bit of a long one, but a lot of stuff going on. Anyways, stay tuned, and I shall see you next time.